Hi, I'm Ross from Airsoft, and today we will be taking a look at the Delta Armory Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Eagle, and Freya model replicas. So, Delta Armory is a brand that's been around for a few years now, but mainly over in Central Europe and the UK specifically. The company is a Hong Kong-based company that does most of their logistics out of Central Europe. And we have just gotten these guys here in the States. I don't know how long they've been in the US, but we at Amped have just started carrying them, so I decided it would be worth taking a look at the different models that the Delta Armory offers and kind of some of the differences between them so that you know what you're looking for when picking up your replica. So just to begin, I'm gonna start off by saying that this review is gonna be a bit different than what I usually do. I won't be going as in detail with each model because I have quite a few here. I'm really gonna be talking about the differences between them. So to begin, we will talk about their Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie series that we have here. So the main difference between the Alpha and the Bravo Charlies is going to be the construction of the build. The Alpha series is going to be a full metal build. The lower receiver is metal as well as the upper receiver, whereas the Bravo series has a polymer lower receiver with a metal handguard here. However, the full upper and lower receiver is polymer. And that is going to be your main difference between these two models, the Alpha and the Bravo series. The Bravo series is meant to be a little bit more affordable, a little bit more lightweight, while still being relatively the same replica at the end of the day. The Charlie series separates itself from these two by being a full polymer construction. The handguard is polymer as well. And the Charlie series has 8mm bearings, whereas the Alpha and Bravo series has 7mm bearings. And so that is going to be the difference between these three here. Now to move over, we have the Eagle series. So this is actually the Alpha Eagle series. So it is the exact same as our Alpha that we have here. It is just with their Eagle series MOSFET or ETU. So that is the main difference, step up there to the Eagle series, and you can get the Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie in the Eagle series if you would like. They're just adding that MOSFET. And so that is going to be your difference for the Eagle. Along with the MOSFET comes a trigger, which is adjustable. For that MOSFET, you have a little Allen key adjustment in there. They do a little bit more to it externally, besides just this trigger, which is different, is the stock as well. It is a bit more of a low profile stock on the Eagle version of the Alpha series. All right, and then moving on to the Freya series down here, it does have the Eagle ETU installed in it as well. It is their highest end version of the replica, and it has some pretty nice notches and cuts in it that give it a pretty clean look externally, and that is really the main difference with this guy from the Eagle. Is going to be that external aesthetic. And all these are priced variably depending on what kind of they offer. You can really see a clear step up in the price points there. So something I'm going to go over is just some of the externals that you'll see across the board with all of their replicas. All of the Delta Armory replicas are going to have a 14mm CCW thread, so you can throw on any attachment you would like. I will say that on these models that have the suppressors built in, they have a reverse indented thread in there, so you could potentially put a thread adapter and thread something to extend your suppressor. I know if you were to take the suppressor off of these replicas, your outer barrel will be sitting far in and your inner barrel will be coming out. So if you are planning on putting a tracer unit on it, you might have a bit of trouble there, just with making sure that your inner barrel is not going through the tracer. So just something to keep in mind with these models of rifles and how that mock suppressor that comes on it is going to affect future attachments down the line. And then depending on the rifle, you're going to have different length handguards. All of the rifles come with these flip-up sights here, and then we did talk about their upper and lower receivers, which are cut differently and built of different materials depending on the model that you get. And then we have the flat triggers. All of the replicas have flat triggers. However, the Eagle and the Freya series have these adjustable triggers that are slightly different with a grub screw that give you a little bit more adjustment with that ETU that the Eagle series provides. And then finally, down to the back, we have your buffer tube and stock, which is where your battery goes in. I'll say that a problem that we had on the Eagle and Freya series was with the button to open up the back of your stock to put your battery in. We were finding that if it is completely collapsed, the buffer tube is actually blocking it and doesn't allow you to open it. So you do have to have that stock pulled back a little bit just to open it up. But once you get it open, it's no problem slapping a battery in there. They are wired to Deans from factory, and then the stocks on the standard Alpha, Charlie, and Bravo series, these crane style stocks, they just have to come completely off. And then you have your buffer tube space for the battery. So just keep in mind that whatever battery you are using, you are trying to fit it into the buffer tube of your rifle. You don't have any battery space in the stock itself. So a 11-1 stick is usually what we would go with. These guys are recommended to be used with an 11-1, and I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. So that kind of does it for the externals. As I said, I'm not going to go too in depth with them because we do have a lot of models of rifles that have different handguard lengths as well as other bells and whistles. So it's really up to personal preference at that point what you want. So to talk about the internals, I kind of talked about the difference between the 7mm bearings and the 8mm bearings for the Charlie series. But to talk about all of them together as just kind of what's going on under the hood, I think these guys are a standard V2 gearbox, which are reinforced to support up to 120 to 130 end spring. We have SHS piston with full metal teeth, an SHS piston head, and SHS delay. We have an SHS tappet plate as well as a 6.03mm inner barrel. And then these guys also have a high torque motor as well as a quick change spring installed, so you can quick change your spring from your buffer tube without having to take the gearbox out, which is always a great feature, especially on beginner-friendly replicas. And then last but not least, these guys all do come wired to Deans. Now, the biggest thing that I saw while kind of playing around and getting a feel of these guys is with the Eagle and the Freya series, they come with the MOSFET not programmed. So when you get this replica out of the box, there's going to be a little pamphlet in there that says how to program your replica. Me being who I am, I threw the pamphlet to the side and said I can figure it out myself. And I found myself clicking through with a bunch of beeping buttons, wondering why my replica wasn't firing. Little did I know that you have to program the MOSFET right out of the box, which is something that usually you don't have to do with your replicas, especially a beginner-friendly replica. So if you're new to Airsoft and you're not used to using MOSFETs and you pick up one of these and it's not working for you right out of the box, don't panic, your gun isn't broken. You just have to do a quick little programming to get it where you want it to be. And the programming is very simple, especially to get it first started. There's a lot of small adjustments you can do between fire modes and other things of that nature. But to get it into where you want to be at, you just want to have it on safe. You want to plug the battery in, you'll hear 2 beeps. You want to pull the trigger and hold the trigger down for 5 seconds. You'll hear another 2 beeps, and then you're good to go. You can switch it in a semi, full auto, it'll fire. So just something that we noticed is that those MOSFETs do not come programmed from factory. So just keep that in mind when you pick up your replica, why it's not firing right out of the box. And that is specifically with the Eagle and the Freya series. We did not have that issue on the ETUs that are in the other series here. So that kind of does it for my overview of the Delta Armory Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Eagle, and Freya series rifles. As I said, I didn't go quite as in detail with each model as I usually would with a review. I really wanted to kind of capture what all the company provides and offers for you guys so that you can kind of determine what would best fit your needs while searching through the many options that they have available to you. I love the amount of customization, amount of options they have. I wish that there was a bit of an easier way to kind of navigate what I'm getting included in each build and what the differences are between them. So hopefully this little guide kind of helps you out when picking out what you want from our Delta Armory selection. So yeah, if there are any questions about the Delta Armory replicas, or if you would like to see more on them, maybe one of them more in detail or some gameplay on the field, leave a comment down below and let us know. Make sure that you subscribe. It really helps us out. It helps us keep making videos like this and keep giving you guys information. So definitely go down and hit the subscribe button. It really does do a lot for us. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. So thanks so much. Have a good day.